with our friend and legal analyst, Tre Lovell. He's joining us now. Tre, good to see you here. This case obviously getting a lot of attention so many years after it was first litigated here. What do you remember about it at the time? Why are we talking about it 30 plus years later?
It's nice to be with you. No, I lived through that trial. I was actually just getting out of law school at the time, practicing 3 or 4 years when that trial was going on. So it was very much in the minds of certainly new lawyers coming out as well as the public. It was a vicious murder. I mean, two kids, went into their home, shot their parents with 2 shotguns, just a dozen shots or so, from what I understand, just very vicious. And it started out with, hey, thinking maybe the mafia had done it, and then eventually came around that the boys had done it, and then it was an issue, why? And then, was it to just be able to take over the fame and the fortune of the family, or was it actually, to save their lives because of the sexual abuse? And there had been 2 trials at the time. The first one was a hung jury, and then the second one ended up in a conviction. So yeah, it was like O.J. Simpson 2 in terms of the publicity of it.
Tre, Gascon's office is working to determine if the brothers are entitled to having their case reheard, or even for them to be resentenced in some capacity. What mechanism, what recourse does Gascon have to even consider doing that?
Yeah, so what has happened in this case is that the defendants, through their lawyers, brought a motion, a petition for writ of habeas corpus, which means that evidence has been acquired after the trial that had been available during the trial may have changed the outcome. And the evidence in this case is 2 pieces of evidence. One is a letter that Eric Menendez had written to a cousin talking about the abuse 8 months before the murders happened, which substantiates and corroborates their position that they were in fear of their life because of the sexual abuse. And there's also a declaration from a 3rd victim that the father had supposedly molested. So based on this new evidence, they're coming in to have either a new trial done, and a second ground is called resentencing. California has recently passed some legislation that allows inmates to petition the judge and have their sentences changed, modified, recalled, based on factors that have happened since the conviction. And so it's those 2 grounds that the defendants have brought the motion on, and Gascon is considering whether or not to agree with it and kind of go in together or oppose it. And a hearing has been set towards the end of November.
Tre, you and I were talking offline. You described this time period as, more vicious than the one in which we live now. It was in the wake of the O.J. Simpson acquittal here. And I had asked you, why do you think there's this new air of sympathy around the Menendez brothers here? And I'm going to ask this. Does it go to the fact that that piece of evidence, those pieces of evidence that you just cited, they were not entered in during the trial here? Is that why we're talking about all this?
Yeah, it's a number of things have happened. First, the Netflix documentary really shined a light on this case, and I think kind of garnered some interest. Plus, there have been some social pushes and groups in the past that have been actually trying to get him released. There's been a TikTok group, from what I understand, have been trying to get his signatures on a petition. Celebrities have been involved: Rosie O'Donnell, Kim Kardashian, both have been trying to get their release. So there has been some momentum even before now, over the last few years, to try to get him released. And the combination of the fact also is that we're kind of in a different era. There's a different way that people are looking at rehabilitation, at incarceration. George Gascon is probably the most anti-incarceration district attorney we've had. And so the fact that he's the district attorney, and if he survives the election and is actually, I guess he'll be overseeing the hearing anyway, there's an excellent chance that they'll get out. So it's kind of been a trifecta, perfect storm of factors.
So, but to the evidence question, was it purposefully withheld at the time, or just not made aware to either the defense or the prosecution? Because that second piece of new evidence you cited that's being reviewed, it's a sworn statement from Roy Rosselló. He's a former member of the boy band Menudo, who allegedly said that Jose Menendez, the boys' father, drugged and sexually assaulted him when he was about 14. Will that be an aspect to Gascon's case here, that everything was not reviewed and looked at the time?
Yeah, so I think those two pieces of evidence were not known about at the time. I think they were discovered afterwards. I believe that the letter to the cousin was discovered in his personal effects, and that cousin's actually passed away. And then I think fairly recently, the last 2 years, did we find out about the Roy Rosello situation? So that evidence wasn't even around at the time.
Yeah, and obviously you cited as well some of these advocates, celebrities calling for them to be released, including Kim Kardashian as well here. Where does this go next? Is this going to be a lengthy, laborious process? These reviews have to take time.
Well, so this is what's going to happen. There's a couple of things that could happen. There's going to be a hearing at the end of November as to whether on these two grounds for the motions that are brought, this writ of habeas corpus, which is this after discovered evidence, and this resentencing based on the conduct of the Menendez brothers post conviction, whether they've been model inmates and have been good people. And then the judge is going to have a couple of choices: A, to have a retrial, to then just retry the whole case again and see what happens, to deny the motion, or to actually, recall the conviction. Take away the first-degree conviction, insert manslaughter in there, and then release them on time served. So there's a number of choices, and it's all within the discretion of the judge.
Okay, but Tre, you have all these kind of factors working in their favor here, but ultimately the state is the most powerful entity against this, I would imagine, or no, because Gascon is opening it back up.
Yeah, so the defendants are the ones that are moving to have this done, and it's just whether or not the district attorney's office is going to kind of go along with it. Is going to jointly, move as well, or not oppose. But you're right. The district attorney's office has an incredible say over this. That the court is going to listen to. But it's become a very sympathetic case in the sense that you got these young boys that supposedly were sexually abused when they're young. They're fearing for their life. They served 35 years.
I mean, Mark Garagos said he wants them home for Thanksgiving.
They're supposedly model inmates. They've actually, I think one got a degree from UCI, UC Irvine. One of the guards, I think, he said that, that he'd like to be friends with them. Okay. I mean, supposedly they've had an incredible post-conviction life, and that's going to mean a lot. They've been in there for 35 years. The question is, have they served their time? And under these circumstances, I think the average person may agree with that.
Wow. Tre Lovell, we're going to have to leave it at that. We do appreciate your insight into this. I think we'll be talking about it a lot in the next couple of weeks here. Have a good weekend, Tre.
You too. Nice seeing you.